Saturday came faster than expected, although there really wasn't much to do at home. I thought I would have plenty to do all summer, watching my favorite TV shows and movies and listening to my favorite songs again, but for some reason, none of it interested me anymore. It just felt like that was something the old Tori enjoyed, and this Tori just wanted to read books and learn more about magic. It was strange, realizing that there were two different parts to myself, and I had to wonder if this was because of me going off to school and learning magic, or was this simply because I was growing up? Just like last year, I insisted my parents drop me off a little ways from the school so I could walk up myself. Last year, I didn't want my parents to drop me off at the gate because I assumed that there would be a breakdown of kissing and hugging and tearful goodbyes, and I wanted to avoid all that in front of my new classmates. But this time, there was none of that. My parents each kissed me on the forehead and promised to write before hopping back in their van and driving off. I stood on the sidewalk and watched them go, watched their taillights disappear down the street, before I turned and picked up my suitcase and headed for the school, dragging it along behind me. Lucky for me, it was lighter than last year and not overly packed. I knew what I needed and didn't need now, so it wasn't stuffed with as many spare clothes as before. I also left all of my decorations back at home. When I first got to school, I had brought a few posters to line the walls, but since I discovered magic, they were no longer necessary. Last year, we had used our magic to decorate our dorm ceiling to look like the night sky, complete with twinkling stars. And, because Virginia demanded it, we also saw purple dragons flying overhead now and again. I tried to push the thoughts of my parents and how our relationship had changed to the corner of my mind as I saw the school gates and, just beyond them, Professor Potsdam and Ellen sitting on a school bench waiting for me. They both stood up as I got closer, Professor Potsdam opening her arms in greeting. "You're back!" Ellen exclaimed as I got closer, wrapping her arms around my neck. I dropped my suitcase and hugged her back, smiling at Potsdam over my shoulder. "It's good to see you, dear," Potsdam says. "How was your trip?" "Oh, it was, good," I shrug. "Not too long." It's only then that I realized that I hadn't actually even talked to my parents the whole drive here. They had talked about possibly planning a trip to Napa Valley in late September, and I had just sat back and listened. In retrospect, I might as well have not even been there. She must catch the look on my face, because instead of responding, she turns to Ellen. "Ellen, dear, why don't you run ahead of us and drop off her suitcase in your room, Sure thing." Ellen looks confused for a moment, looking between Potsdam and I, before nodding her head and scurrying off with my suitcase behind her. "See you later, Tori." I wave back as she heads down the path to the dorms, and I turn back to Professor Potsdam. "Is there, something you wanted to talk to me about?" I ask nervously. "No, dear," she replies sweetly. "Just want to take a little walk, that's all." She puts her hand on my back as she slowly guides me through the gate, steering me to the left away from the dorms towards the walking trails. She waits until we are on one of the dirt paths before speaking again. "Is there something you wanted to talk to me about?" Not particularly," I ask, choosing my words carefully. "I see." She smiles a knowing smile, as if she knew something that I didn't. "I then must inquire why you have returned to us so early." A jolt of alarm shoots up my back. I had written Hieronymous and Ellen to tell them that I was headed back this weekend, but I hadn't explicitly cleared it with her first. I thought... I'm sorry, Professor Grabiner's letter said that you welcomed me back at any time, and I just... "Ah," she sighs, "so you missed him. Is that it?" I pulled gently on my earlobe in confusion. I guess I did." I shrugged to myself. I had a multitude of reasons for wanting to return so early, but seeing Hieronymous again wasn't really the chief one. "Is this why you wanted me back? So I could work on our relationship?" "That," she says pointedly, is completely up to you. I just find it curious that you seem to jump at the chance to return as soon as he suggested it. Virginia wrote me too, I say defensively. And Ellen. I missed my friends. I missed magic. She waits for me to continue. Is this about my parents? When Hieronymous came to inform me that you would return this weekend, he mentioned that you might be interested in letting that old part of your life go. What? I feel my face flush with surprise. Why would he tell her that? I mean, sure, I'd mentioned things were difficult with my parents, but that didn't mean I wanted to sever things between us completely. Is that the reason I'm back so early? Did he enchant them to take me back to school as soon as I asked? Did he... She pauses in confusion before she laughs, letting the light summer breeze carry her voice. Didn't he explain? Explain? Sometimes we encounter families that have doubts about sending their child off to boarding school, she explains. But once a child turns 16 and makes the choice, it is their decision whether or not they want to study magic, not their parents'. Therefore, your parents have been charmed to return you to the school whenever you want them to, should you ask them directly to return. I said I want to go back, but I didn't say I want to go back immediately. Then when did you ask to come back? I don't think I did, I say hesitantly, trying to recall. I said that I did, and my father said he could drop me off this Saturday. They are charmed to take any direction from you, she repeats. Although it may be difficult for you to understand right now, you returned to school today because you wanted to return to school today. If you wanted to come back to school at the end of July, your parents would have offered to drop you off then. I hesitate, biting my lip. I still don't want them to lose their memories of me. I still want to visit them over holidays and everything. They're still my parents. They're still my family. You could have a new family now, if you want one. I turn to her sharply and she winks at me, pointing through a space in the trees. I turn to where she's pointing to see Professor Grabiner heading back towards his personal quarters, 2 thick tomes tucked under one arm. I don't know, I reply uncertainly. He said he was really busy this summer. He probably didn't even miss me. Are you so sure? She asks. Why, the happiest I've seen him lately is when he was in the mailroom, waiting for one of your letters. I feel my cheeks go hot as I stare after him. What can I even possibly say to that? It's weird enough that he's my teacher and I'm his student, but it's almost even weirder that my headmaster is encouraging our relationship. I turn around to say something, but she's already vanished, probably teleported away back to her office or something. She wants me to go after him, I realize, but I quickly shake my head and turn around, walking back towards the dorms. I'm not quite ready to face him just yet. Besides, I want to unpack, catch up with Ellen. I came back to school to spend time with my friends, not try to seduce my teacher into taking our marriage seriously. When I get back to the room, Ellen is there waiting for me. I'm so glad you're back, she says as soon as I walk through the doors. I've been doing nothing but reading since the day you and Virginia left, and for the first time, it's starting to get dull. Dull? Really? I laugh as I walk over to my suitcase. Ellen has left it on the floor next to my bed. So who else is here? Donald, she replies with a casual shrug. I turn around to meet her eyes, and she quickly looks away. I didn't go to the May Day dance myself, but I had heard Virginia scoffing that night about how Ellen went with her brother. It was a little strange considering how Ellen had a crush on Virginia's older brother William at the beginning of the year, but if she was happy, I was okay with it. How's that going? I ask. She shrugs again and smiles shyly at me. He's nice. He seems nice, I say in earnest. I just had the one small suitcase, and it doesn't take me long to unpack it all. I walk over to the full-length mirror set up behind the door and point to my hair, murmuring something under my breath. I can see Ellen wrinkle up her nose behind me in the mirror as my hair turns from a pale blonde to an ugly green, to a light turquoise, and then getting darker until it reaches a color that's a shade darker than a royal blue. My hair is a tad longer now, and I consider splashing the ends with a bit of violet to lighten it up, but that color is associated with a name, and that name has connotations, so I decide against it. I wish I could do that, Ellen says. I don't think my green magic is as advanced enough, though. I spent most of last year just learning mostly blue and green magic, I shrug. I figure green magic is good to have on hand if Virginia gets sick again, but I really do love blue magic. Which means you're going to have old grabby pants for blue magic again this year, she teases. Wait, what? I blush as I whirl around to face her. I thought he only taught freshmen. No, Ellen shakes her head. I think blue magic is like his specialty or something. If you like blue magic, you'll probably have him as your teacher for all 4 years. Oh no. I sit down on my bed and bury my face in my hands. I can feel Ellen frown at me from across the room. What's wrong? She asks. I thought you two were getting along now, or something. I hesitate before I finally settle on the right word. Embarrassing. When you left, Potsdam was practically pushing me into having kids with him. Really? Ellen asks, and she can't hide the look of horror on her face. Well, sort of. I shrug. She said he could be my new family now, or something. Oh. Ellen looks down. Does that mean that you've made the decision about your parents? No, I don't want that. I deliberately look away. I can't meet her gaze. I'm not ready for that yet. No, I understand, Ellen says quickly. Everyone's situation is different. I shrug and get to my feet. I thought about at least going to say hi to him, tell him I'm back. Ellen makes a small murmur of agreement. Are these normal clothes okay? I saw a bunch of people walking around in the quad outside, but no one's wearing their robes. Oh, Ellen looks up at me. Yeah, during the summer, they're really relaxed with a dress code policy. The only time you're expected to wear your robes is during class. Neat, I grin. Although I don't think I'm enrolled for summer classes. Are you? One, Ellen says, but it's more of an independent study sort of thing. Basically, you just learn what you want, and a teacher will give you tests designed for what you're learning as you go along. It's a good way to learn extra merits, too, if you want them. Maybe you should look into it. Maybe, I reply, with absolutely no desire to give myself extra homework. Well, I'll let you get back to your homework study, or whatever. We'll hang out more tonight, I promise. Okay, Ellen smiles. I smile back as I make my way out the door and out into the corridor. I walk to Professor Grabiner's room slower than my usual pace, letting the realization hit me that this would be the first time I would actually be alone with him since our first kiss. I'm nervous, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm not sure how he'll react to seeing me, or if it's because I'm not sure how I'll react to seeing him. Am I concerned that he'll kiss me again? No, I don't think he will, and yet I would hardly call myself unhappy if he did. Despite his reputation as a miserable, mean, grouchy old man, he was nice. Or rather, he could be. He was attractive, funny, witty, and he was smart, knowledgeable about the world all around him. So what if I had a bit of a crush on him? Wasn't I allowed to have a crush on my husband? His room was on the second floor of the building, and though I took the stairs 2 at a time, it took me about a solid 2 minutes before I could work up the nerve to even knock. I took a deep breath and finally knocked, rapping my knuckles against the wood. Who is it? For some reason, his brash, I don't have time for whoever this is tone put me at ease. Tori, I say brightly. I wait, but there's no response. Can I come in? I think I hear a sigh from the other side of the door. If you must. I wrinkle my forehead in confusion and enter his room. He is sitting at his desk, piles of papers in front of him. Busy with summer classes? I ask. He raises his eyebrows as he looks me up and down, but says nothing. I came back early. So your letter said, he replies. He seems to be watching me almost curiously, some kind of amusement playing behind his eyes. Is that a good thing? A bad thing? I can't be sure. Yeah, well, I look down at my feet as I shuffle them from side to side. Have you been? Working, he replies, gesturing vaguely to the pile of papers on his desk. Summer classes are just as much work as those during the formal year. Right, I breathe. I'm suddenly hyper-aware of my breathing, and I wonder vaguely if it's my nervousness that's amusing him so. Is there a reason for this visit? He asks, turning away from his desk to focus his full attention on me. This question I was ready for. Does a wife need permission to visit her husband? I ask, pleased that the shaky inflection has left my tone. Yes, well, he shifts in his chair and his eyes dart away from me. This is a finite arrangement, after all. I believe there are only 6 months now until the severance. This I was not ready for. I feel my jaw go slack. The last time I saw him, he had kissed me. Throughout all of his letters, he had not been forthcoming with his feelings, but he had at least hinted that he had missed me. And with Potsdam's speech about how he could be my family now, I assumed that they had at least had some kind of conversation while I was gone to at least give this marriage a chance. I thought... I am aware of what Potsdam has been telling you, he continues calmly, seemingly unfazed by my reaction. Despite our interaction last spring, I am still afraid that you are underestimating yourself. You are a very smart girl who is exceptionally pleasing to look at. Your romantic prospects can only improve. There is no reason for you to tie yourself to me. I swallow the lump in my throat. This really should not come as such a shock to me. During my time at home, I had prepared arguments and counter-arguments, planned conversations and strategies in my head, prepared for when this sort of conversation might arise. I just didn't expect it so soon. You're only saying that because you're afraid if we try to stay together and be a couple, that I'll eventually leave you for someone else later on and you'll get hurt. I cross my arms across my chest. But when have I ever given you any indication that that would happen? His face flushes and his mouth forms a hard line. I am aware of my shortcomings. I am not exceptionally attractive, nor am I particularly pleasant to be around. I like my books. I like my solitude. You are still very young, and there are still many people who you can meet. I'm about to argue when he holds up his hand. I know Potsdam has been filling your head with nonsense. After our arrangement in January, we can have a friendship of sorts, but nothing beyond the appropriate teacher-student relationship. Is that clear? No, I say, putting my foot down for effect. I only realize after I have done it that it makes me look childish. Stubborn girl, he says as he gets to his feet. I am acting in your best interest since that foolish woman seems to have no idea. Or maybe she does, I counter. Maybe I happen to be stupid and stubborn, or maybe I just happen to be exceptionally loyal. I am your wife. I made my vows, and you made yours. Now, I haven't been a witch for very long, but I don't intend to simply break my words so easily. And I set myself squarely in front of him. I do actually like being around you when you're funny and nice and not constantly questioning our relationship. He sighs, more frustrated than angry. I do remember our conversation last spring. There's no need for you to go off on another one of your speeches. I keep my gaze steady, refusing to get back down. It seems there is no dissuading you. I let a smile rise to my lips. I know we didn't have the most conventional start to a relationship, but I do like you. And you said yourself that you're fond of me. I want to see where this goes. And besides, it's still summer school. Technically, you're not my professor for a little while yet, so the whole professor-student argument doesn't apply. He looks like he is about to argue, then relaxes. So then, what benefits does this minor technicality award us? My breath catches in my throat. I take a step forward slowly, feeling him tense. I reach up and gently press my lips against his, hovering for a moment and wait for him to kiss me back. When he doesn't, I pull away slightly, waiting for him to make the next move. I half expect him to kiss me like he did the night of the May Day ball. Instead, his hand slips behind my neck and rests in my hair, his other hand skimming my neck and coming up to touch my cheek. I moan slightly as his hand runs down my back and rests on my waist, pushing me closer into him. I relax into him, opening my mouth slightly, gently letting his tongue touch mine. We stay like that for a few minutes, tasting each other, getting familiar with the sensation of his lips against mine. He suddenly pulls away from me and won't meet my eyes. We're both standing in the middle of his room awkwardly, each waiting for the other to speak next. I'm not ready for, or asking for, anything more than we did right there, I say before adding, at least, not right now. The corner of his mouth pulls into the semblance of a smile, and there's a faraway look in his eye. No, nor am I. I blink at him. Wait, I mean, you've never... I bite my lip as he looks away. I'm sorry, I just thought... Perhaps you said it best when you were here last. I may have worldly experience, but in this regard, I am just as much a novice as you. I grin at him. Well, then, we can learn together. His face relaxes. If you insist. Okay, but no more talk of the severance or anything. It stresses me out. He seems surprised, but relents. All right. He turns back to the pile of papers on his desks. I am extremely busy during the week, but if you so like, you can visit me here on Saturday afternoons. I will dedicate that time specifically to your needs. I can't help but smile at him. It feels good to see him at least making an effort. Okay. I reach up and place a chaste kiss on his lips. He seems surprised, but pleased. See you then. As I'm walking out the door, he calls out my name. Tori. Yes? I spin around to see him fidgeting awkwardly in the middle of the room. Knowing how confident and self-assured he seems in class, it's kind of cute. If you must know, yes, I did miss you after you left. It looks like it was painful for him to say, but I can only grin as I rush out of the room and shut the door behind me, almost crashing into the doorframe as I leave. He really does like me. It's more than a little strange to think about how he is my husband, and yet I am still trying to earn his affections, but I try to put it behind me. We have kissed twice now, and he seems like he's ready to at least try and give us a proper go, and I can't ask for much more than that. I walk outside and stretch my arms up into the warm summer sky and realize that I still have this big stupid grin on my face. I am far too giddy right now. I can't go back and see Ellen like this. She already thinks that it's weird enough that I am married to Professor Grabiner. I don't know how she would react to see me dance around the room like a silly schoolgirl just over the fact that we kissed. In fact, there's no one I can actually talk to that wouldn't think that I was weird in some way. Shrugging my shoulders, I decide to make my way up towards the library. Maybe I should look into this independent study thing after all. It would definitely earn me extra points with Hieronymous, and I could always use more of those.